is in the spotlight again for the wrong reasons over its tactics during the miners' strike in the 1980s and its handling of the large-scale sexual exploitation of young girls in Sheffield. We'll have more about that in just a moment.
But first, BBC Yorkshire has obtained newly declassified documents that show Margaret Thatcher's government feared a witch hunt if a public inquiry was held into the policing of the miners' strike. The documents show that despite thousands of police officers and miners violently clashing at Orgreave, the government felt no investigation should be held into how the police conducted themselves. David Rhodes reports.
For over 30 years, these images and what they represent have divided opinions. For some, these are working men struggling to protect their jobs and communities at the so-called Battle of Orgreave, the height of the miners' strike in 1984. For others, this is the police upholding the rule of law in the face of a violent mob. Look North has seen previously classified documents that show at the end of the strike, Home Secretary Leon Brittan remained of the view the government should not encourage any form of public inquiry. The documents also show that senior officials wanted the message simply to be the rule of law had won, the system had worked. There was no need to investigate the conduct of the police.
They've still got the same opinion today in 2017 as they had in 1985. We do not want an inquiry.
For former miners, they say these documents are where a cover-up begins.
The suspicion is never going to go away that this was orchestrated right from 10 Downing Street to defeat the miners and to use the police as a battering ram. If a government can get away with burying this, you're thinking, what's next?
The files also detail the attitude of South Yorkshire Police after the miners' strike.
What I detect from those documents is that certainly there was a degree of self-confidence within the South Yorkshire Police Force. The way the police were so dismissive, but it's pretty clear they believe that they have got the full confidence of the then Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher.
These files are not only relevant to what's happened during the strike. 5 years later, South Yorkshire Police will be centre stage in the aftermath of the Hillsborough disaster.
The two events, Hillsborough and Orgreave, can't be separated. You cannot have the full truth about Hillsborough until we also know what happened 4 years earlier when the same police force employed the same tactics that it was later to do against the Liverpool supporters, but this time against the miners.
The Home Office says the police system has fundamentally changed in the past 30 years and that very few lessons will be learned from reviewing past events. And the Home Secretary last year set out her reasons for not holding an Orgreave inquiry.
In this situation, in Orgreave, there were no miscarriages of justice, there were no deaths.
For the miners, they say their campaign continues. David Rhodes, BBC Look North.
Well, apart from the files held by the Home Office, 65 files are also being held by South Yorkshire Police. I asked the Police and Crime Commissioner, Alan Billings, wasn't it about time they put these files in the public domain?
Well, in a sense, that's what we're trying to do. We've tried to get them together. We've searched all police stations. They've all been gone through, basements, attics, everywhere, to try and get everything together, make sure we've got it. It's in the Sheffield Archives. And the plan was to hand it over to the public inquiry. Now that isn't happening. We have to have a managed way of disclosing them. You can't just release them. There are some things which may have to be redacted because it's got personal information in there, that sort of thing. So it has to be done properly. Now, I totally accept the thrust of your question, and that's why we work with Orgreave Truth and Justice Campaign to say we're really not trying to delay here, quite the opposite. We want to get them into the public domain as quickly as we can.
The problem is this: if you were to go into a mining area now, it's almost as if Orgreave and the miners' strike happened yesterday. 33 years on, just doesn't exist. That's where their frustration comes in.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, if I had my way, then there would have been a public inquiry a long time ago, and we'd have got to the bottom of it clearly tough. And I think you're right too to suggest that if public trust and confidence in South Yorkshire Police is to be fully restored, and if the police themselves are to get out from underneath all this stuff, we want this in the public domain. We want it all open and transparent, and we all want to know where we are. That's what we've got to do as quickly as we possibly can. So my funding of an archivist is designed to ensure that that happens as quickly as possible.
Now, the Orgreave campaigners feel that they were led up the garden path. The previous Home Secretary, now of course the Prime Minister, and then the new Home Secretary comes in, and completely destroys their hopes of a public inquiry?
Well, there's a difficulty now because I think you're right. The previous Home Secretary, now Prime Minister, led them up to the top of the hill, and then the present Home Secretary marched them all down again. That was a very cruel thing in my view. I think you could have an independent means of managing this process now that is probably a bit short of a full inquiry, which is what ideally the campaign would like. But I think it could be done and should be done in fairness, in justice to them.
South Yorkshire Police and Crime Commissioner. Next tonight, 30 current and former police officers in South